Happy International Women's Month
It's
and
being re-
welcome to the Women's Entrepreneurs Forum. We are going to be discussing today STEM leadership in the context of sustainability, circularity, and the collaborative economy. I'm delighted to welcome our panelists, Mireille Toulekiman and Dr. Nayan Mitra. By way of introduction, I am Margo Thomas. I have a PhD in development economics from the University of Manchester, and I currently lead the Women's Economic Imperative as the president and CEO. This is an organization that I founded that's focused particularly on women's economic empowerment, but we recognize the importance of empowering disadvantaged and underrepresented groups. We're a global organization. In terms of my background, I was a senior World Bank official for more than 25 years. I subsequently led the UN High Level Panel Secretariat for the Panel on Women's Economic Empowerment under the leadership of then President Solis and Simona Scarpaleggia, former CEO at IKEA. Without further ado, I will now ask the panelists to introduce themselves. Nayan, please tell us a little bit about yourself, your passion, and what brings you to this discussion today.
Thank you, Margo. So I'm Dr. Nayan Mitra. I've come from India. I wear many hats. So individually, I'm the series editor of Responsible Leadership and Sustainable Management, which is a Springer Nature publication. Institutionally, I'm the founder director of Sustainable Advancements. Now, one of the brands of Sustainable Advancements is ALNA, where we are working with rescued and vulnerable women of trafficking. We have been working with them for many years now, and we are trying to provide the dignity that they deserve, and also to bridge the last mile for them to become self-reliant. Uh, on an ecosystem wise, I'm the national president for WIKI. WIKI is the Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Sustainable Businesses Council, and the India chair for G100 for circular economy. And
Thank you.
we strive to do so much and continue to do so.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Nayan. And now, Mireille, I'm delighted to welcome you to this discussion. Please do introduce yourself to our listeners.
Thank you very much, Margo. It's a pleasure to be here. And for those who've never met me, my name is Mireille Toulekiman. My background is in the engineering and energy sector. I'm the managing director of MT Energy Resources, a consulting company that I've founded 7 years ago. I have 25 years of experience in the energy sector, worked in different projects, in different companies, small, multinational. And my passion is really to empower women in STEM and also in engineering. I'm also the G100 country um, chair for engineering. And again, I spend a lot of time on think tanks and different organization, different platform, exchanging on how we can empower women and girls to participate in STEM and also to grow when they are in already working in those industries, to grow and be able to reach the highest level. And the most important thing, be part of the decision making process, because I think that's where we have the gap. But that's all I can say right now.
Thank you so much. And of course, it's International Women's Month. So, our discussion today really will focus primarily on STEM as it impacts women and girls. As half of the world's population, we it's not disputable that we're an integral part of the development, and it's important for equity. I'd like to start with you, Nayan, to ask of you, as you've established yourself as a thought leader in the space of sustainability and responsible leadership. Can you share with our listeners your perspectives on the interconnectedness between sustainability and circularity, and how that impacts the work of STEM in bringing the next generation or increasing the representation of women and girls in these areas?
Thank you, Margos. So before I start in the interconnectedness part of it, I will just start with the definition of sustainability. So we all speak about sustainability, but what is sustainability? Okay. So in a nutshell and very simplistically speaking, sustainability is about live and let live. Of course, it has a formal definition where the United Nations Brundtland Commission defines sustainability as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. However, later on, this definition kind of saw a more structured definition came into being by means of John Elkington in 1994, where he created the sustainability framework that comprised of three P's: people, planet, and profit. And we also call it as the triple bottom line. But what happened with this, the profit part of it, is that this profit gains an enormous amount of uh, uh, importance with regards to people and planet. So the profit became the most important part in any organization. So in 2018, he wanted to relook this, and things were not going in the same space. We were talking about climate change, we were talking about so many different things, icebergs, melting icebergs, and so on and so forth. Water level rise in different kinds, and even to the extent that we were worried about food security. Okay. So eventually in 2018, he brought about a new theory called the green swans theory. Now, green swans theory and such theories saw a series of regenerative business models. And over a period of time, the definition shifted from three P's to five P's, comprising of people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. Now, when I speak about this entire series of regenerative business models, one of the business models was the circular economy model. And this circularity, as the name defines, consists of an economy that is rotary in nature. It goes round and round. It was found by Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and it was directly in contrast to the linear model. So the linear model was based on two faulty assumptions. The first assumption was that the earth has infinite resources, and the second faulty assumption was that the earth has infinite regenerative capacity. And therefore, this model, the linear model, spoke only of take, make, and waste, where we were talking about resource extraction, production, distribution, consumption, and disposal. Whereas, because it was based on two faulty assumptions, naturally, it is not a sustainable model. So the new model, which is the circular economy model, started putting greater emphasis on reuse, repair, recycling of items, enhancing responsible production and consumption. So what this meant was we are trying to close the loops, slowly narrowing our usage, uh, narrowing our usage, fewer resources. We are using fewer resources to the extent that this new circular model now started with raw materials. So, with raw materials, we started designing, producing, distributing, consuming, collecting, and recycling. So, what the linear model would have done is with consumption, then it would have wasted, would have gone to waste. But with the new model of circular economy model, after consumption, we are going into collection, recycling, redesigning, remanufacturing, redistribution, reuse, repair, again recollection, recycling. And this model starts going round and round and round till we have a residual waste. Okay. And when I speak about residual waste, interestingly, according to the ILO, the International Labour Organization, a net growth of 6 million jobs worldwide is estimated by 2030 in waste management and recycling or the service sector having sharing, renting, and repair model. So that is about the circular economy. So here we are talking about reuse, recondition, repair, refurbish, remake, regenerate. Now, when we speak about, now these are definitely disruptive business models, okay, where we are integrating and depending on our value chains continuously because this model was never there. And the moment something new comes in, we have huge role that STEM needs to provide because these were not there anyway. Anywhere it was not there. So whatever, the moment we are talking about innovation, the moment we are talking about creation, new creations, new engineering, new things that are happening, then the STEM becomes almost uh, vital. It becomes most important, for STEM professionals to have a platform. Now,
Thank you.
Margot, again, being the International Women's Day, why women? And I'll just end with this one line because various research shows that women are very naturally disposed towards sustainability. It comes from their inherent quality to nurture. Now, with this, I think I should stop and, may you kindly proceed.
Okay, thank you very much, Nayan. I think you set the stage for us very nicely. And your last point, I think, is what really we should be carrying forward. That when we look over the course of history, because of the social um, identification around roles in society, I I would posit, and of course I cannot quote the literature at this point, but I would posit by a casual observation that women have always been on the forefront of taking care of our environment and our surroundings in order to enable our nurturing and our survival.
Yes.
I think what your point about the underrepresentation, and I'm going to turn to Mireille here from a STEM perspective, is that women have invariably been disadvantaged in terms of their role in formal leadership and in formal action and the recognition of their contributions. I think that's an important starting point as we empower or work to empower through STEM or STEAM or the many variations of that, um, the next generation or the current generation of women in the economic, political, and social space. So, from that perspective, I'm now going to turn to you, Mireille, especially since you're in one of the core spaces when we think about sustainability and the impact on the environment. The energy sector is a driver for much of our economic activities, even in the areas of service industries where we don't think of physical infrastructure. Um, can you share from based on your background and your perspectives and having been in very much in the trenches on these issues as a woman in this space, what are some of the issues and challenges that you foresee, and how do we then organize the STEM initiatives in order to increase the representation of women and girls?
Thank you, Margot, for this question. And you are right. I mean, STEM and energy has have become really the backbone of several economies and several industries as well. And it is important that women are part of it. I mean, we are in the middle of what we call the fourth industrial revolution. All the jobs that are going to that are being created, and the jobs in the future are going to have already have a STEM impact and aspect. And it's important that, women understand that they have to play a role in all of this. And unfortunately, we see that, the field of STEM are still, remaining predominantly male dominated. And it is important to see how we can move forward. I mean, we've had quite a lot of progress, so far, but the representation is still very, very low. And we need to really look at how we can, how we can grow the numbers. So far, we've seen the progress that we've seen is bringing more women. I think when I started 25 years ago, we didn't really have, a lot of women working, especially in the energy sector. But with some work and advocacy and getting a little bit more organized, looking at pushing some of the policies, we've been able to attract, more women at the beginning of the pipeline, which is, women actually going into studying in the field of STEM and starting in the industry. But what the problem that we are faced on right now, especially in the energy sector, pipeline, is that, we have this increase of women coming in, but we lose them. And that's really what, what we really have to address, because it's one thing to bring the woman, but we really want to retain them. And on top of that, what's happening is that when we lose them, we don't have any representation, a good representation at the top, of the hierarchy. What we're talking about, senior management, we don't have a lot of women. It's about, the percentage is so low, 20%. And if we go even higher for CEOs, to have qualified women, I think it's less than 10%. So things need to change. We need to make sure that women are part of the decision making process, and they really sit at the table to create, the future, to really, address all the problems and create the sustainability that we are looking for. And so it's going to be a collaborative effort. It's going to start, from a collaboration between different industries, starting from the education sector, looking at, the policies as well, and also, looking at, uh, the woman themselves, which is, a shift of mindset as well. Because I think what's really important is that, yes, we have all those barriers, but it is important that women also commit to really, have a shift, understand what are the opportunities, understand what is the power of being part of those industry that are now really driving any economy, and understand that they really have to be part of this industry, and be part of, of the solutions, because otherwise they will be left behind. And not only, we at the individual level, but I think for economies, it is a big loss if we don't integrate women. And that's really, where I see the challenge, and where I see also the opportunity. And it's really an opportunity right now for women. I think it's the right time. We see, new way of doing business in STEM. We have the Web3 coming in. We have the metaverse. We have all kind of, new industry where women can actually start to position themselves and push forward to be able to be, at the center of what's going on right now in the world.
Yes. Thank you for that, because I think what in taking part in this value, the global value chains, and with the changes in the way in which goods and services are being produced and delivered, it creates a host of entrepreneurial opportunities where women don't necessarily have to fight through the hierarchy in the established enterprises and structures. And I think that that in itself will be an added pressure for the existing enterprises and structures, to to change their model, or at least modify their approaches, because they're going to be less competitive. You see, we tend to think of this whole issue in social terms, and we look at it in terms of norms and principles that have guided society, that are structured by the patriarchy, by and large. And it's not purely a reaction. I want to come back to you, Nayan, because I think we need to do even more to make it clear that when women are not equally engaged or offered opportunity, it's not just it's not just that there's underrepresentation and it's bad for society, it's bad for the economy. It's actually a cost. And in discussing with, particularly with government leaders, I often say to them, in many respects, what you're doing is imposing a tax on the growth and the prosperity today and tomorrow. What in your field, how do you approach or account for this cost, when women are excluded in the formal sense? Because the reality is that women are very much included, but in the informal economy.
Exactly. So, Margot, I think you hit the right spot here, because the cost. So, one of the things, what I guess, because here in sustainability we talk about multi-stakeholders. So
Hmm.
not just the government, but all stakeholders around us in the societal system. And
That's
when we
right.
talk about cost, one of the things that we always overlook is the cost part of it. We do not provide that economics with the woman in the first place, okay? That dealing happens right at the beginning. So how do we measure the cost is something which never happened, which it never happened because we never put put the cost with the woman, economics with the women. But yes, what now has happened is, uh, what now has happened is that women have started looking up. They have started, themselves, they have started coming out of their shells, coming out of various parts. And there's a huge drive which I'm seeing among the women right at this moment as we speak, to upgrade themselves, to move up. That's number one. Okay. Number two, they're also conscious that, they do not have the support that they deserve. So one of the researches that we did from Sustainable Advancements was on women at work during COVID times. And we just did that research trying to find out what women were facing and what are the constraints, opportunities that they were facing during COVID times. Mind you, Margot and Mireille, I was astonished to see that they came up with such responses. Like most of the time, their husbands and their children were getting the Wi-Fi connection, and they had access to gadgets, whereas the woman of the house did not, and she was doing a fully paid job in a responsible position. So what the woman ended up doing was she was cooking, cleaning, taking care of, all kinds of caregiving and so on and so forth for the entire day till evening. She sat down to work in the evening, which continued till about 3 a.m. in the morning. And again in the morning, she started, early in the morning, she started her housework. But this is definitely not a sustainable model. I mean, we speak about sustainability, but this definitely is the sustainability model. Now, who would provide her this opportunity? Shall we still kind of stop and look at the society to provide the husband and the child, to say, please, please start your work, please do your work, we will manage? Shall we, kind of, you know, look, have expectations, or shall we now start to create our own expectations for ourselves and create the
Yeah,
opportunities? So that's
absolutely.
a question I feel, Margot, that needs to be answered.
Yes, I fully agree with you, but we're constrained by time. So I want to go to a very lightning round. If in 1 minute, 1.5 minutes each, you could tell me, what are the key actions that you feel need to be taken by whom, right? And then what is it that you will do or will continue to do to advance this agenda? Mireille, can I start with you?
Yes, definitely. I just wanted to come back to your point on the cost, and I think sometimes and especially in STEM, is not really well presented. I think sometimes we have to come up with numbers
Yeah,
and really use those numbers, because sometimes it looks like people restrain this issue to an emotional issue coming from women,
absolutely.
and they don't really
Yes.
relate to what is
Mhm.
the impact for everybody, for the economy, for for the society, and for us to have a sustainability in the world. So I think that's the first thing to really look at, us women, or even people who work with women, to understand what is the cost if we don't have women involved in those industries. What is the cost of for the economy, for society, for humanity? What is the cost? And I think when we have that, it's a bit more, it's easier to start having a debate and start and really bring them along. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, I think, is I talked about it, is a shift in the way we approach things as women. And you brought a very important point, is we don't have to fit into the existing model, because the existing model was actually made by men for men. So it is important that we come up with a model that we think will work for us, and we drive this model and really push forward and educate people about the model that we think will work for us, and will be beneficial for everyone. And I think that's that's where it is important to go, to start at the basic level, with schools, education, but as well coaching, mentoring, and really entrepreneurship is a key one, where we can empower women to become entrepreneurs,
Yeah,
and really make sure they get, because funding is obviously a problem for women as well, but make sure they get the capital, the funding, to really start being entrepreneurs and growing as entrepreneur. Because I think we have a lot of women who start, but then it's more about how do we actually create those big companies, women creating those big companies where they
absolutely.
can actually employ people
Yeah.
and really make a difference. And I think those are the key area that we should really
Oh,
we should focus on.
thank you, Mireille. And Nayan, we're about to run out of time, but I do want to ask you, what's the primary action step that you see needs to be taken? If you can tell us that in
Yes. So I
45
will.
seconds.
I noted your three questions, Margot, and the key action is we need to create role models. Okay, and who will do it? We ourselves will do it.
Absolutely.
And what shall we do to create this? We need to break the stereotype. So these are the three answers to your three questions, Margot, as short can be.
Thank you so much for your very powerful discussion today. And I will summarize our discussion, or what my big takeaway is: the importance of thinking outside of the box and the commitment to disrupting in order to benefit everyone. Thank you very much for your contributions today. It's a
Thank you,
pleasure
Margot.
on my side.